Coming up on Tech News Today, Google launches a music store, Facebook battles porn, and Microsoft's got a social network. We'll investigate all of this next on Tech News Today.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Wednesday, November 16th, 2011. Happy birthday, Mom. Tech News Today is brought to you by Squarespace.com, the fast and easy way to create a high-quality website or blog. For a free trial and 20% off your new account for 6 months, go to Squarespace.com and use the offer code TNT11. And by MailRoute, a secure hosted service that provides enterprise-grade spam filtering to companies of any size. Try it right now for free for 15 days and save 10% off the life of your account by visiting mailroute.info. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Sarah Lane.
I'm Iyaz Akhtar.
I'm Jason Howell.
And joining us, Mr. Randall Bennett. How's it going, Randall?
Randall.
Doing good, guys. How are you?
Good to have you along. Did you get a chance to watch the Google Music announcement?
I did. I caught the end of it. Pretty exciting stuff. I don't know. Google Music, like, it's one of those things where I feel like it's a little bit old, but hey, let's
Is that why you have the
celebrate.
guitar out so you could
exactly.
celebrate the music?
Well, he's going to record right
put my
after
own
Tech
band
News
on there,
Today and then
so.
sell his new
It's
track
good for the indie artists
on
like
Google
Randall.
Music. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's the upshot. They have 3 of the 4 major labels on board. So as we heard in rumors, Universal, EMI, and Sony all signed up. Many indies, almost all the major indies you could think of. They say they'll have 13 million tracks in the store. They have 8 million live today. They'll keep adding tracks. The service will remain free as it loses the beta tag. So you will not have to pay anything for the Google Music service. You only have to pay for your individual tracks. But you can upload everything you've got on your hard drive right now in the U.S. only, for now.
Of course.
And up to 20,000 songs. When you buy from the Android market, which now has a music store, you can get 320 kilobit per second MP3s. So Google opening the store, we all suspected. A lot of people excited about the social aspect. You can share the music you purchase from the store on Google+, and anyone who's in your circles will be able to play the entire track one time through for free. In fact, you can share a whole album. They can play the whole album if you buy that. There's going to be updates to the Music Manager. There's going to be updates to the mobile interface. There's going to be updates to the web interface. All that happening today. And they threw out some nice stuff for independent artists. There's a direct distribution deal. If you have the copyright ownership of your own songs and you're not signed with anybody, you can sell your music in the Google Music Store and keep 70% of the sales, set your own price, even link it up to your YouTube channel if you've got one to hook it up with some videos.
So it's pretty much what we expected, but they had more labels than we thought because I think the rumors were just Universal and they have 3 labels.
There were some rumors kicking around about Sony, but they weren't as credible as the rumors about Universal and EMI. It turns out they were very credible.
So they have
on board.
That's it's a very good start. I mean, they probably will get Warner Brothers Warner Music in the long run. Considering if this works out, you're probably going to see a lot of people sharing music. They're going to be playing them. It's going to lead to sales, and Warner's going to notice that eventually and go, oh yeah, we should join this.
How do you guys use your music service? I mean, what service do you use? I use Rdio personally, and the idea of paying for songs has really worn off on me. You know, I feel like if you're a pirate, you can upload 20,000 pirated songs. But as far as subscription music, that's what I definitely prefer. And to me, this Google Music announcement, while, you know, the interface is really interesting, the service is actually pretty cool, I just prefer subscription music because I don't want to pay $10 for an album when I can pay $5 and get it all.
Yeah, Randall, I actually use Rdio also, and I know a lot of people who say the same thing about Spotify. These services, Google Music being the most recent, I mean, it's great if you've got a big music collection, you want to have it in the cloud, you don't want to pay anything for stuff that you already own. You do need to upload all of that music, so there's no match involved. So it's like, you know, Jason had a hard time getting all of his music up. It took a couple of weeks.
It took like a week and a half.
It was a process, but once you go through that process, you're pretty much done.
Totally.
You don't necessarily get better versions of songs unless they were good to begin with. So it kind of seems like where some people might think iTunes Match is the better option, Google Music sounds easier, but it still suggests that you care more about having copies of your
owning-
own music in multiple places rather than a subscription to all the music in the world.
And I do. I am a hoarder. I want to own my tracks. I've signed up for every one of these music subscription services, including Spotify, which I was very excited to try because everyone in Europe said how great it was, and I have not stuck with any of them. I still use iTunes and a playlist, and I play most of my music on my phone when I'm traveling, and I manage a playlist from there, and that's the way I want it. I want to buy my tracks. I want to control my music and have copies of it, and I think the music industry is breaking down into two camps. There are people like me who want to have this individual tracks of music you own, and there are people who are like, you know what, I don't want to worry about all that stuff. I just want to have access to new stuff all the time. And I think Google has decided, you know what, we're going to go after that camp. We're going to go after the camp of people who want to own their tracks, and I think this is a very good effort for that. I looked at this and I said, I feel like this is a central control of my music that is so much better than what Apple offers through iTunes, where it just seems kind of disconnected and I never have a good look at the whole picture. Here I can buy in the Google Music Store. It immediately goes into the cloud. I know that happens with iTunes Match now too. Maybe I just need to live in that for longer. But there's not an iTunes Match interface. There's iTunes and there's iCloud and iTunes Match, and this is so much centralized and so much more elegant.
They also have a bit of a streaming option. Let's say that me and my 10 closest music-loving friends all get into a Google Plus circle. I mean, I can pretty much stream a lot of albums, not over and over, just the once. If I love it, then I can go find it on my subscription service or maybe download it and pay for it if that's what I want to do. But the social element of this is really enticing because I can actually sample a lot of music without having to buy it first or pirate it.
One of the downsides of the whole subscription-based thing is that these companies still have to work with the record companies over and over and over again to keep getting these streaming rights year after year after year. I mean, it's not like they're going to have an unlimited service contract with these companies. So the issue with that is I could imagine it would be like cable television. You know how sometimes a network just disappears because they have a dispute? No. Your music doesn't disappear. That's one of the reasons I'm like Tom. I keep my music that way. I'll stream some things, but if I stream it enough, eventually I want to buy it because I don't want to hear an ad. I don't want to lose access to it in the long run. That's a small thing about Google Music that I kind of like, and now it's really making me think about upload speeds because my upload speed is pathetic.
Jason, break the tie. Which way do you go? Which way do you use your music?
Well, I mean, I love Google Music, and I use it almost every day, first of all. I think the streaming services for me, and maybe it's my musical taste, are never complete enough. Like, if I'm going to use something, I want to use one thing, and I want that one thing to have everything that I need and that I want to listen to. The Google Music service allows me to do that, right? It sucked in the beginning for me to upload everything, but it's my entire music collection, and it's all there, and I have it anytime I want with no sort of, issues to access it, unless I'm, of course, not connected at that particular moment. But personally, I haven't really run into that.
That's a key, right? Now, you can download, especially if you're on your Android phone, you can download tracks and have them available for offline listening, but you can't do that in iOS.
But I will go ahead and say that I haven't really run into any situation where it's like where I didn't have something on there to listen to, or didn't have some sort of internet connection. Not to say that it doesn't happen,
sure,
but it hardly ever happens, so it's rarely ever an inconvenience for me.
I would think on airplanes.
Yeah, airplanes, absolutely. And if I'm going on a trip, I probably would think ahead and go, all right, I'll cache these 5 albums.
Go ahead, Randall.
One thing I would say is that, I think that we're looking at this from our perspective where, we've all kind of built up these MP3 libraries over the course of years and bought from iTunes, et cetera. But if you're starting fresh, I just can't see the, buying albums model. I mean, financially, it just doesn't make sense. Like $5 a month, if you're buying one album every 2 months, I listen to a lot more music than that personally. I think Spotify has the right idea, especially for people like, you, Tom and Jason, like having these gigantic libraries of MP3s. You can listen to them in Spotify. If Spotify added iTunes Match or Google Music like syncing functionality with your own library, especially for, Jason, you mentioned like there's edge cases where there's some band that you want to listen to that doesn't have a deal with RDO or something. If there was that extra piece, I just think these subscription services for people coming fresh they're just going to be so much more appealing. I don't think everyone is like us and has this gigantic library of MP3s. Spotify, to me, it's their game to lose. They have the most flexibility in streaming rights for some reason. And I've had the case where on Rdio, an artist that I like, Metric, was a specific one. Metric's last album was removed from Rdio after I had already synced it to my phone, and then I lost access to it. I was pretty angry, so I had to end up using Spotify, you know? To me, like, that combination of being able to upload your MP3s, sync them. In Spotify's case, you can play them in the same player, which is sort of a starting point. That, to me, would be kind of the ultimate nexus.
I think we've broken it down now. Young people who like new and fresh music, subscription service.
Yeah.
Old fogies who just want to listen to their same old Jimi Hendrix tunes over and over again, Google Music.
Exactly.
Let's move on to porn. Facebook is still fighting it. They've almost eliminated all the porn from the spam attack we talked about yesterday. They blamed it on a self-cross-site scripting vulnerability in the browser. Now, we mentioned this yesterday, but it didn't quite sink into me what was going on. Facebook says during the attack, users were tricked into pasting and executing malicious JavaScript into their browser. So it wasn't a clickjacking per se, according to Facebook. They say people were cutting and pasting code and putting it into their address bar, causing them to unknowingly share the offensive content. Also, Facebook says they have a dedicated enforcement team that has already identified those responsible and are working with their legal team to ensure appropriate consequences follow. Now, they said it was caused by a browser vulnerability. They did not identify the browser, and they also said that they know who did it, and they haven't identified them, but they're making it sound like, you know, they're the NSA. Don't mess with Facebook. They will find you.
Well, I understand not revealing the identity of who's behind this.
Sure, there's a legal
because
reason.
There's a legal reason, and there might be a a minor reason if somebody's underage. But I would really like to know which out-of-date browser is the culprit here.
I would like to know that too, because
That
I
would be
want.
good
I mean, I guess it's responsible disclosure to give it to the browser maker first, so they can patch the hole before you
Definitely
let it out. But eventually, they're going to have to let it out, so we know which browser it is that we need to patch.
That's clearly Internet Explorer 6.
I was just going to say 2 words that start with 2 vowels. Just saying. I mean, I don't think it can be anyone else with that. So.
Opera is not the appropriate name of that browser. No, it's IE6 actually could be.
That's
anyway,
got a huge install base, and if you still have IE6, you're more likely to, at least in my guess, you're more likely to start clicking links or pasting things, not really paying attention to what's going on. I don't know. If you're kind of with it,
profiling the IE6.
That's right. If you're kind of with it, you might not be using IE6. I don't know. Just call me, I guess, a browserist.
Well, just to be clear for anyone out there who is worried about this, never copy and paste unknown code into the address bar of your browser. I can't even keep a straight face when I say it.
Well,
but
it could have been a short link. I mean, if they shorten the URL, maybe that's how they wrote it.
Yeah, that's
like
true. But still, don't be copying and pasting it.
If it's cross-site scripting, it's going to be like JavaScript : / or JavaScript : and then a bunch of JavaScript functions. It's going to be obvious that this is code you're running in your browser.
But Iyaz just pointed out it could be behind a tiny URL of some sort.
If you're in this specific vulnerability, you couldn't put it behind a tiny URL or else it wouldn't execute. I mean, I can understand how they
is that right? Okay.
This, but if you put it behind a tiny URL, like it wouldn't even load. It would just like redirect to some nonsense page.
Gotcha.
So,
always use an up-to-date browser. Don't use IE6. Use the report links on Facebook to flag suspicious behavior or content on your friends' accounts. If you see something that doesn't strike you quite right, you're like, wait a minute, that Sarah doesn't usually talk about hardcore porn, and you probably want to report
only
that
on special occasions.
Say, that's not one of her posts. It looks like something's been hacked. Facebook also in trouble from the USA Today, which just discovered cookies exist. They have a long exploratory write-up today saying that Facebook is keeping close track of where millions of their members go. And I think the thing that really is getting people's attention, they're setting cookies for non-members of the social network. So if you visit a Facebook page for any reason, through a search or somebody sends you a link, even if you're not logged in or a member of Facebook, they will set a browser cookie that will then collect your browsing behavior and report it back to Facebook.
Well, and Facebook does a really good job of enticing people to click on Facebook-related links.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm not a Facebook member, but Iyaz shares something on a third-party site, on Wired, and I say, oh, I like Iyaz, and he usually has good taste, and I click on it, then, I shouldn't be tracked by Facebook by not even being a member of the site.
This is one of those things that Facebook's going to get in more trouble for this than everybody else who does exactly the same thing, because there's so many sites that set browser cookies
Right.
that then track you around. I mean, if you don't want to be tracked by this, learn how to empty your cookies and block them and don't accept them and all of that sort of thing. You have an easy way not to be tracked. Not that we shouldn't continue to support things like Do Not Track that the FTC and Firefox are pushing. I think those are great ideas because it makes it easier, and making it easier means it's better. But I don't think Facebook is the worst offender here. Do you?
Like, don't you see a whole bunch of targeted ads with Google? I mean, aren't they tracking what you're doing anyway? I mean, even if you sign into your Gmail and they're paying attention to what you're doing anyway. I mean, this is, I thought, normal internet behavior at this point. And if you don't want to be watched, you have to turn off your cookies or you have to be more aware of what's going on.
The do not track stuff, I think, is really going to come to the forefront just because there's situations like this where people are scared of Facebook tracking them because they feel like Facebook or Google or these companies have all this data. And making things like do not track a regular in-browser thing, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's a good thing for people who might be scared but less savvy, who they don't know what a cookie is. I think that's something Girl Scouts sell you. So I really think like situations like this will cause a flare-up. The senators will listen and they'll say, oh, do not track is the way, and in the end, like, we're just going to get some browser extension, just like we had blocking pop-ups.
So, Randall, are you saying that Girl Scout cookies are tracking us, or Girl Scouts are tracking us?
The Girl Scouts are tracking you. They give you cookies, and then you never know where those end up. So
cookies.
Oh,
really,
cookie
really
jokes. Cookie jokes. Never get tired of good old cookie jokes. The other thing that we should bring up here that the USA Today brings up is Facebook does have the ability. They say they don't do this, and you have to take them at their word. They do have the ability to take all of that information you give Facebook about yourself, both explicit and implicit, right? So if you have all of your profile filled out with your birthplace and your address and all of that stuff, and you use it constantly so they know where you go because you've got Facebook Places, your Foursquare's piping in there, they could correlate that with your browsing history and have a goldmine of information about you. Facebook says they don't correlate it with people. And they never would because they would get in trouble.
But imagine if, let's say, an insurance company, a health insurance company, wanted to pay to get some sort of a knowledge about me having a pre-existing condition so I could be denied health care that I really need down the road. I mean, that's you can say, well, that's kind of a conspiracy theory way to look at things. But if they have the ability to do that and they were to execute on it, it could be very scary.
It's slippery slope stuff. I mean, you think that Facebook, like, they don't have the time or probably want to correlate that data. But my assumption would be that they're using this as sort of anonymized big data. So you want to say, oh, like, how many people went to Google, or not Google, but how many people went to CNN.com where there's a Facebook like button, and then they could correlate and say, oh, CNN, like, here's how your traffic's doing or whatever. I wouldn't think that the correlation stuff would happen, but you're right, Sarah, that is sort of a concern, and do not track and things like that could prevent those sort of edge case scenarios from playing out.
Right.
I'm trying to look at my cookies in Firefox here to see if USA Today set how many cookies USA Today set when I visited this story. But
to do a session, you need a cookie. Like, it's to me, like, all this worry over cookies is a little bit ridiculous. I mean, yeah, they can be malicious with it, but it's kind of how the internet works. So
yeah, exactly. All right, let's take a quick break. Thank Squarespace.com, sponsor of today's Tech News Today. Fast and easy way to create a high-quality website or blog. This is a great way to do a personal blog. It's a great way to do a business blog. It's really a great way to do any kind of blog. But I have been overwhelmed by the stories people have sent me of actually starting sort of a side business because they used Squarespace, they loved it for their own site, and then they found a business that didn't have a website or didn't have a very good website. And they're like, we love this hot dog stand. We love this clothing store. In a few minutes, while standing in the store, a few people have emailed me and said, I made a website for the store. I showed it to the manager. They were thrilled. I handed over the keys. I used the code, which this month is TNT11, gave them 20% off for 6 months, and here I am. I've started setting up websites for small businesses. And not only is it beautiful and it's easy to make a great-looking website, but they provide you all kind of analytics that you're not going to get if you just run your own or if you use a freebie. You're going to get SEO optimization that you would pay people to do that just happens naturally. All kinds of ability to tweak the code if you are a CSS expert, but you don't have to be to make it look good. Check it out, Squarespace.com. We love them and we thank them for their support of Tech News Today. And use that offer code TNT11 to get 20% off for 6 months. Don't forget, you don't have to use a credit card to try it out. You can try it out absolutely free. You only can use the code if you decide to keep it and pay. You get 20% off when you use that code TNT11. Thanks Squarespace.com for their support of Tech News Today. On to the Nokia rumors, and this Nokia rumor coming from someone at Nokia. These are sort of my favorite rumors. We had this with Steve Ballmer earlier, right, where he said something and everybody said, well, you know, that's Steve Ballmer. Well, apparently Paul Amselin, Nokia's general manager in France, told Les Echos, a newspaper in France, that the company will have a Windows 8 tablet in June 2012. Paul compared the Lumia 800 also to a BMW 5 Series, adding that Nokia will soon have a 7 and a 3 Series to go along with it. So he essentially told the newspaper, we're going to have a tablet in June 2012, and we're going to come out with a higher end than 800 and lower end than 800 series for the Nokia. Of course, Nokia spokesperson started bending over backwards to say, we haven't announced anything anywhere about any of this, whether it was the tablet strategy or a new line of phones. Boy Genius Report is reportedly says that Nokia is preparing to launch a high-end Lumia 900 smartphone early next year. That could be one of the BMW 7 series that Paul was referring to. It'll feature a 4.3-inch clear black AMOLED display, 1.4 gigahertz processor, according to BGR. My Nokia blog discovered what appears to be an official Nokia video on YouTube showing a phone that looks like the 700 with an extra speaker grill. The video has since gone private, so you can't see it now.
Could be a nice viral kind of marketing thing for Nokia. I mean, they did the same thing when they showed off, not the first Windows phone they had. They're like, okay, everybody,
C-Ray,
we have this here. Turn off your cameras, please, and keep recording. Apparently, and
I think they wouldn't have made it private if they were looking for this to be.
But it's still, you can still, well, you know it's private, so then the video says private, so then you knew it was there. They didn't change the video. They could have deleted it. They could have done a lot of things to hide it a little bit better. But I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, Microsoft. I mean, Elop is from Microsoft. You know that they're going to do something with this. Windows 8 is going to run on ARM. Why not put it on Nokia? I mean, that's not so crazy. On top of that, Nokia used to do tablets before it was. Remember those little 7-inch things they used to have?
Yeah, I love those.
That nobody bought? Not nobody.
Yeah.
The security guy had
few
seen
people
it.
bought.
One of the security guys had seen it, loved his.
So maybe I wonder if, did he maybe use that word for tablet, or did he mean the modern tablets?
No, he meant the modern tablet. He's talking about Windows tablet. Yeah.
Windows 8 tablet.
I absolutely believe that this guy is telling exactly the truth about what is going on right now. But I also know that these companies don't announce this stuff because things change. Dates slip. They run into problems. They decide, well, you know what? We went down the road so far on this tablet, but let's not release it because it's not working out.
That's why executives, Microsoft is another offender, say, yeah, we're doing this. This is exciting. We're not just sitting around idly. And the PR department goes, no, we have nothing to talk about right now.
Right. That also means Windows 8 will be ready by June 2012 for sale on an actual device. That's not something that's been announced as far as I know.
That's a good point. Yeah, right.
So maybe that's the other thing. Like, oh, no, we weren't supposed to say Microsoft's supposed to do that.
Yeah, we do expect to hear about a Windows 8 release date definitely by June, probably after the first of the year, maybe at CES. But
nothing official so far.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a little bit of a leak there as well. John Stanton, he is sort of a legend in cellular. He was the first nationwide mobile phone company called McCaw Cellular. For those of you who are rugby fans, it has no relation to Richie McCaw. It's the cellular company that became AT&T Wireless. He later started Western Wireless, a rural mobile operator that started VoiceStream, which was then purchased by Deutsche Telekom, that became T-Mobile, which is about to get bought by AT&T Wireless. So, yeah, John Stanton is everywhere. He was speaking at the Law Seminars International event in Seattle and related a discussion that he had with Steve Jobs about a cellular network that would use Wi-Fi to replace mobile carriers. According to IDG, which was at the meeting, reportedly Jobs gave up on the idea around 2007, which would have been sometime near the release of the original iPhone. But he didn't want to give the iPhone to any carrier. He wanted it to just work on Wi-Fi and some kind of VoIP thing.
That sounds like something that Steve Jobs would want. And he'd think about it and try to make it happen. And then somewhere around 2007, assuming that the story is actually real, he had to give up.
There's rumors about this, about Apple launching an MVNO, a mobile virtual network operator. So basically they lease bandwidth from these carriers. There's rumors about that all the way up to the launch of the iPhone. And I don't think, using Wi-Fi would have been a really bad choice because Wi-Fi is not architected to handle the switchovers that cell phone systems are. So one of the biggest problems Wi-Fi faces is if you move in and out of a hotspot range. It's really hard for the Wi-Fi hotspot to deal with that. And you can, you know, you nerds can correct me if I'm wrong. But, you know, I think technically to do this on Wi-Fi would have been kind of a crazy Steve Jobs notion. But I don't think I mean, it's Apple. They might have been able to pull it off. But I'm hesitant to believe they could have pulled that off. I would think they would build something like Wi-Fi. You know, WiMAX is an example where it's based sort of on Wi-Fi, but it handles a lot of those more modern cell phone-like architectures.
Yeah, the technology isn't there yet. I agree. Wi-Fi is not the right choice for this, but I could see some kind of mesh network technology that's being developed right now eventually allowing this to happen.
I wonder how many carriers would have been cool with this, considering that how when Steve Jobs, before he puts the iPhone on singular at that point, the way the industry worked, carriers basically ran roughshod all over the phone manufacturers. You would have branding on this thing. You'd have our bloatware. Jobs is like, no, here's what we're going to do. We're going to have this phone. We're not going to have your logo anywhere on it other than on the screen. And then anything you want to install on it, you can't. And we get a cut of the contract. When people are paying per month, we get a piece of that. He basically changed the way that was working for phones companies. So maybe...
That's why NTT Docomo does not have the iPhone in Japan, because they want to put their own apps pre-installed, and Apple is saying absolutely not. You can't have the phone then.
Would have been a totally different industry if he was allowed to do this.
I just think that, like, the iPhone never would have come out on cell carriers. I think that, you know, if he could have pulled it off, I think Apple really could have pulled it off, especially with the iPod momentum, right? In 2005, like, the must-have gadget was the iPod, right? And as we sort of had this ramp up to the iPhone launch, Apple might have been able to pull it off. People didn't. I still don't like my cell phone carrier. I mean, if you don't like your cell phone carrier, you think they're screwing you, Apple can give you a deal that's like, you know, somewhat comparable. Plus, it works, you know, the checkout process for the iPhone at an Apple store is pretty awesome. You know, if they could break all these things down, I think they could have owned the cell phone carriers, but, you know, it's kind of complex.
Technology just wasn't there, yeah.
Maybe they'll buy from Light Squared when that gets up and running, or from Sprint and go, we got this.
Yeah, maybe. Finally, Thomas Houston from The Verge has a detailed look at Tulalip. We've talked about this on Tech News Today before. It's Microsoft's private beta social network, which apparently has now been renamed Microsoft Sokal. That's S-O-C-L. I don't know why.
Web 2.0.
Social.
Why not just call it Microsoft Social instead of S-O-C-L?
Because people
they all do that.
SEO.
Because social is taken in every other instance. I don't know, because companies make up dumb ideas.
Why didn't you call your show the Sokal Hour?
Well, this is Microsoft.
Because that doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
I mean, they're sharing service squirting. I wouldn't go.
That's why I'm saying
this
this is definitely social.
Right.
It's
But anyway.
just a stupid way to spell it.
Microsoft has been testing it with a select group of friends in a private beta. But it's tied into search. It's kind of weird. It asks, what are you searching for, which can be toggled to a normal status update field, but entering a search term or a status update drops it into your feed with the appropriate Bing results attached, where your friends will then have the option to comment it, like it, or tag it. There's also a video party feature that allows you to chat while watching YouTube clips so that you can all watch the same cat riding a skateboard and talk about it. It's a research project. It may get tested publicly, but Microsoft says they have no intention of launching it as a standalone product. I think what they're trying to figure out is how can we take what we learn from this and use it in Bing. In fact, it actually plugs into Facebook to do a lot of the normal things that you would do in a social network, and Facebook and Microsoft are fast friends these days.
Yeah.
My initial reaction is, ugh, another social network. But I do like the way that there is some just sort of chatting elements. There's certainly a sharing of video element that's kind of reminiscent of like a Google Plus Hangout. There's a bit of almost of a core element where you ask a specific question and you want to get sort of a crowdsourced answer. I just don't know how it's going to be incorporated into Bing in the way that it would achieve mass adoption.
To me, like, the only way this could be incorporated into Bing that would actually make sense, maybe you do a Bing search and you don't find any good results. Maybe you click to a link, you come back. You click to another link, you come back. It says, hey, you didn't find what you're looking for, did you? Do you want to ask your friends? Then you click ask, and then maybe it shoots it out to Facebook. To me, that's actually like a workable solution, right?
Yeah,
like,
using Facebook Connect to sign you into Bing, right?
Exactly, yeah. So you'd already have like your social graph built. You wouldn't have to build another one. I think there's some, as a social network, this sounds completely ridiculous. Like I would never want to go to Google and be like, oh, personal health issue, submit, and like, oh, all my friends get to see that. It just sounds insane to me. But
Randall, I heard about your rash.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, those warts, those are troublesome, aren't they?
Yeah.
But having this be built into Bing that way, where it's like, okay, you didn't find what you're looking for, let's shoot this out to your friends. That to me, it seems like a natural progression.
And if that's not the way it's going to work, that's the way it should work. Actually, that actually sounds like a really good idea. Like,
except for the medical part, right?
Not the medical part. I just meant the fact that if you don't find your actual results, why don't you just crowdsource it? That's actually what I end up using Google Plus for a lot.
Yeah,
I look for stuff, and I'm like, you guys know? And they'll
lazy tweet, like the lazy web. People have always talked about sort of blogging or tweeting or sending things out to Facebook. Quora is sort of the ultimate version of that, where it's like, okay, we're going to find experts and then have them answer your question explicitly. But to me, that would be something cool that Bing could do. I don't know if it's this thing that would keep users coming back, but if you're already a Bing user, it definitely would be a plus. And it would get some virality too, because you'd have Bing results show up in your Facebook feed, and if you have a good comment, like, those can get incorporated back in. I mean, there's some good threads there.
Exactly, and I think as a research project, that's exactly what Microsoft's after, is figuring out those kinds of ideas. Let's move on to the news views. The House Judiciary Committee made it clear today that they weren't interested in hearing anything but yes to the Stop Online Piracy Act. Of the 6 witnesses, only the representative from Google criticized the act. And the hearing began with the committee chair, the Right Honorable Lamar Smith of Texas, singling out Google by accusing the company of attempting to obstruct the committee, and then, for no reason, brought up an FDA lawsuit regarding pharmaceutical ads. The MPAA's Michael O'Leary dismissed concerns about how the DNS blocking portions of the bill might harm DNSSEC rolling out, saying that codes change when confronted with new developments. This, of course, ignores the entire history of how Internet protocols are developed. The committee can now take its stacked deck of supportive testimony and solitary objection from the witness chair, impugned in its opening statement, and put it forth as evidence that the world demands that we use the powers of government to prop up a particular industry at the expense of innovation, job creation, and Internet security. Good job, committee.
That's why they called him Google, so they could yell at him.
All right. Remember when the Gmail iOS app got pulled from Apple's App Store because it didn't work? Well, it's back. It's back in the App Store. Earlier this month, Google introduced the app and promptly pulled it because it had a bug with notifications. But the new version of the app doesn't actually add any features. There's still no multiple account support. It just fixes the bug. So if you had managed to install the original Gmail iOS app, it stayed with you. You still had it. You'll have to uninstall or log out of the old version before installing this new version to be all up to speed.
Boxee officially announced its live TV adapter for its Boxee box. The USB TV tuner will let you watch over-the-air television or unencrypted cable. The dongle will work only on the Boxee box. You can't use this on your Windows or OS X version of Boxee. There's no DVR functionality, but Boxee CEO Avner Ronen said this could be a possibility in the future. The adapter is available for pre-order. It costs $50 and will ship in January 2012.
HP announced its first entry into the Ultrabook market, the HP Folio. Inside, you'll find an Intel Core i5, a 128GB solid-state drive, and 4 gigabytes of RAM. Now, don't confuse this with the Palm Folio. The HP Folio is spelled with an I, not an E. HP says the Folio is aimed at businesses, which does explain why Dan Ackerman of CNET called the design bland to be charitable.
On to something a little different. Trademark wars. Didn't work. TMZ is reporting HTC received a cease and desist letter from an adult film company, Vivid Entertainment, because it has an issue with HTC naming a device the Vivid, because, you know, how could you tell the difference between the two things? The standard for trademark disputes is confusion in the marketplace. The HTC Vivid is, you know, 4.5-inch Android phone, and Vivid Entertainment makes porn. So I can see the confusion.
I mean, look at how obscene this phone is.
Obscene.
It's obscene.
Am I
phone
looking
is
at porn,
asking for it.
or am I going to check Twitter? I don't know.
We'll see how that goes. Evernote released a Google Chrome extension that works a lot like Readability or Safari's reader function. When you click on Evernote Clearly, that little button, the extension will strip out ads, and it can also take multi-page articles and make it into a single page. You'll be able to customize the color of the background and text. Evernote also plans to release a Firefox version soon.
German news site MobiFlip reports that Samsung will relaunch the Galaxy Tab 10.1 in Germany with a design it hopes will get the product into the country. This model is officially the Galaxy Tab 10.1N, and Samsung added a slightly larger metal band around the device. Beyond that, it's pretty much impossible to see any other significant changes from the picture. The Tab could not be sold in Germany because of physical similarities to the iPad.
It looks like you can see at least the speakers up on the top a little bit better. It's minor. During an investor meeting, Qualcomm CEO Paul Jacobs said that the company is working with Microsoft to make sure Windows 8 will run on its ARM chips. Expect to see Qualcomm-powered Windows 8 machines in 2012. Qualcomm also announced a new LTE and 3G chip that will be more power efficient. Since Apple is using Qualcomm chips and power concerns have been a sticking point for Apple, this has people thinking maybe the next iPhone and iPad may be ready to roll out on LTE.
Boy, that was quick. The Kindle Fire has already been rooted. Over at AndroidForums.com, a user named Death2All110 has put up instructions on how he was able to root the tablet using Super One-Click 2.2 and the Android SDK. Amazon also released the source code for this Kindle Fire today, so expect a lot of cool custom ROMs pretty soon.
Let's move on to the randomizer.
Randomizer.
Now, I'm a sucker for a good battery story, which usually means that I'm always being voted down because there's a battery story every day. But
we
today,
didn't have any prep today.
No prep
we
today.
didn't have a prep meeting.
I was wondering what happened
so I got a battery story.
what happened to the cool stories?
So a team of scientists at the McCormick School of Engineering and Applied Science appears to have cracked one of the thorniest problems, batteries which work. The team's batteries use a high-tech mix of sheets of carbon and silicon to supercharge lithium-ion batteries to hold up to 10 times as much power and charge up to 10 times faster. Now, tell me you don't like that.
I love this idea.
I thought
Absolutely.
so.
And then you have to get like an iPhone and a case has another stupid battery on it. You can have a good, nice, thin device that has a nice battery.
I want to hear someone play devil's advocate about this. Like, who wouldn't want more battery life? You asked Iyaz as if he might say, I'm ambivalent.
I could do it.
Lithium-ion batteries are the current standard for high-tech appliances. All this is a new type of electrode, so it's easy to work into current devices. Also, Breakthrough uses a mix of sheets of graphene. I'm a big fan of graphene as well. Atom-thick sheets of carbon and silicon. So, you know, I mean, the problem with these battery advances is they always sound great, and then we never really see them.
Well, or it just takes many years.
But I'm very excited about it.
It'd be nice for cars, too. Very nice for cars. You can just charge up real fast, and or you can get thinner devices in general.
Drive across the country. Yep. That's what I want to do.
Real quickly, I want to thank our other sponsor today. Do you need maximum no spam? You do. Visit mailroute.info and sign up now. MailRoute is a secure hosted emails filtering service that you can have up and running in minutes. It works if you have your own domain and email service or if you use a hosted email service, even like Google Apps. No hardware or software to install. Just sign up, change your MX record, and your spam and viruses are a thing of the past. I use it on my domain mail. It is incredibly accurate. Virtually no false positives. Captures more junk than anything else out there. Whether you're a single user or a company with tens of thousands of employees, MailRoute promises to give you incredible service and support that you deserve. Visit mailroute.info. Try it free for 15 days. I'm telling you, you're going to be amazed with maximum no spam. You won't get spam. You'll be like John C. Dvorak, except you'll mean it. So try it out. 10% for the life of your account for being a TWiT listener. Go to mailroute.info. We thank them for their support of Tech News Today. On to the calendar.
So what about that old tweet, like 3,400 tweets ago that you want to recall? You can't do that on Twitter. Finding specific Facebook posts can be difficult, even searching Google+. But that's why you might love This Week in Google's very own Gina Trapani's new app, ThinkUp. Helps you manage this type of data, gives you charts, analytics, pretty much everything. Tom, you're actually running it, aren't you?
I am a ThinkUp fanboy. I absolutely love it. It's, you know, I do install it on my own server, but you can apparently install it on Amazon Web Service as well.
That's true.
EC2 and
it's those are your two choices as of right now.
And it's great. It just, I mean, it's all kinds of cool analytics on what's going on with your Twitter feed and finding old tweets and everything. Check it out.
Yeah, it's something that Gina's been working on for a while. So if you've heard her talking about it, definitely check out thinkupapp.com for all sorts of information. Nokia's Lumia 800 went on sale in the UK today. Remember, that's the one that Paul Amselin, the Nokia general manager in France, says is like the BMW 5 series. So you know it's good.
Yeah, whenever I see someone in a Nokia Lumia 800, they cut me off.
Jerks. You should honk at them. You should report them. Open SUSE 12.1 was released today. Some highlights include GNOME 3.2 desktop, cloud support called Own Cloud, among some other goodies. And Minecraft for iOS is here, and I will estimate That means there's a 99.998% chance that Leo Laporte will talk about it on tomorrow's episode of iPad Today.
That's a pretty good chance. So you're saying there's a chance.
Oh, there's a chance.
Let's check incoming.
Incoming message.
Got a couple good voicemails today. First one, a question about the Stop Online Piracy Act's effect on international users.
Hey, Tom, Sarah, Iyaz. Love the show. You guys rock. Name is David. I'm Australian. I have a legitimate website. I was watching your show last night, and you were talking about this SOPA, or I think it's called SOPA, legislation that your Congress is talking about at the moment and presumably going to pass. Doesn't this mean that anyone in the whole world, including the USA, doesn't this mean that some RIAA or someone can just simply make a complaint without a judge's order, a court order, or whatever, and shut down a website? How can this be legal? The internet is not governed by the US government or Congress, so I'm wondering, like, how many legal issues are going to come up about this? And I guess the Congress has good lawyers. Love the show, guys.
Well,
good job.
A big thank you. It would become legal in the U.S., and it would apply to U.S. ISPs. So outside of the U.S., it wouldn't have any effect at all. But inside the United States, any foreign website that is accused of copyright infringement could be blocked. And in fact, ISPs would be indemnified, therefore somewhat encouraged to block without a judge's order. So if the RIA just goes and says, hey, we want you to block this website, the ISP can block the website. And even if that website sues, the ISP won't have to take responsibility for it. So it does call for a judge's order in most cases, but it also encourages some vigilante behavior, if you will. Outside of the U.S., though, it can't actually stop you from getting to sites, which is one of the reasons it breaks DNS, because all of a sudden you've got different rules for websites inside of one country versus another, which is what we have in a few countries already, like China and like Iran, but not that many other countries. So as far as it being legal, you know, the United States is a sovereign country. They can do whatever they want. Congress makes the laws in here. As long as we're not affecting people outside, then they can get away with it. Next one is a note on the SSID that I use for my router at home.
Hey, guys, just one thing in reference to the Google Maps thing yesterday. Tom, you failed to realize that if you did that, you would suddenly become the Dr. No map. So a little bit of a cleverness there.
A little bit.
So, thanks, guys. Keep up the good work.
Thanks for putting that. Because if you put no map at the end of an SSID that's the doctor, then you're Dr. No.
Oh, got it.
I see what you did there.
Yeah. Also got an email from my favorite Frenchman, Patrick Beja.
Oh, I love Patrick Beja.
Who said, Sarah reading French is like sweet, delicious audio honey for our ears.
Sounds messy.
Well, thank you, Patrick. I know you're lying, but I appreciate it
But that's
anyway.
why he's our favorite.
Yeah, that's right. Next email from LWATCDR. Subject, the death of the Java applet has been greatly exaggerated. Ever use GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar? Both are Java applets as well as a lot of Yahoo games. Frankly, Java applets have gotten a bad name over the years because a lot of people use them for things that just didn't make sense. We can thank Microsoft Front Page's use of Java-based buttons for that, among others. While the use is decreasing, Java applets are still used. In a way, it's a shame since Java is nowhere near as slow or as bad as people that don't use it make it out to be. And of course, Google's GWT takes Java and compiles it into HTML5.
Java applet fans out there? Anyone?
Did we bag on Java?
We read a story where they said no one does Java applets anymore. So, of course,
Yeah.
anytime you say that.
Those examples are like, those examples are kind of invalid. I mean, they're like applets that run on your computer. They're not like applets embedded in a web page. I think that's what everyone's saying, is that Java applets embedded in a web page are like gone. No one's using them anymore. But like GoToMeeting and other cross-platform apps still need to be running on the desktop, which happens to like be an applet like thing. So. Yeah.
Last email from Jim Class. I was listening to the podcast and I wanted to put the 25,000 songs in perspective. He's talking about iTunes Match. The average human only lives 30,000 days. I was in a meeting a few years ago, and one of the guys was complaining that his iPod couldn't hold 90,000 songs, which means the guy wanted to listen to 3 new songs every day his entire life from the day he was born until the day he dies with no repeats. 25,000 seems like more than enough considering we only live 30,000 days.
Cool perspective.
It's interesting.
Wow. I've been alive for 15. Oh my gosh, I'm halfway done.
Uh-oh.
I better start listening to more new
I've been
music.
alive for 15,078 days.
Midlife crisis. Start now.
I have too many songs in my library. I have to go.
What are you going to do?
All right, that's it for our show. Thanks, everybody who submitted stories at our Reddit. Our subreddit is technewstoday.reddit.com. We love hearing from you, seeing what stories people submit, and most importantly, seeing what stories you vote up and down. That's what really helps us decide, hey, that one's getting a lot of attention. Maybe we should include that in the lineup. So check it out, technewstoday.reddit.com. Also, we have an incoming special that we're going to play on Thanksgiving Day. That'll be our Thanksgiving Day episode because we'll all be out of the office here in the United States. That's next Thursday. So on Monday, we're going to record an episode that's all your emails and phone calls. So get them in by Monday, November 21st at 10 a.m. And let us know, hey, this is for the special. I've always wanted to ask you this, but I never really had a reason. I always thought I had to wait to respond to a story. Here's your chance. For no other reason, just ask us whatever you want or make a comment about whatever you want. And the email address, of course, TNT@twit.tv, phone number 260-TNT-SHOW. Randall, Bennett, thanks so much for being with us today. Really appreciate it. Let folks know what you're up to and where they can find what you do on the internet.
Yeah, so right now I'm working on a project that it's not public yet. It's a way, so this is a sort of preview. I'm taking social media and making it work for television stations. So if you know someone or you are someone who works in a TV station, you should get in touch with me. Twitter is probably the best way, twitter.com/RandallB. Also, vidplusplus.com is a place where you can find out all my info. So, yeah, get a hold of me. I want to change the world. Help me.
Excellent. Thank you, Randall. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Like I said, you can find us on the web, twit.tv/TNT. You can email us, TNT@twit.tv, or give us a call, 260-TNT-SHOW. Don Reisinger was supposed to be on the episode today. He had to cancel. We'll try to get him back on soon. Hopefully, we'll be talking to Trisha Duryea from All Things D tomorrow. We'll see you then.